Whew. Hello, ladies. It has already been a crazy day. So, thank you so much. I know I am hopping on a few minutes late. Thank you for those who have been patient and waiting for this. It is video number 3 in our series about relationships and your body. So, we've already talked about joints, your hips, your shoulders, all those connections, your wrists, and what is happening to your joints when your relationships are feeling disconnected. Last week, we talked about hands and lips and those being dry and what that does to your relationships. And today I had a couple people ask me to get a little bit, well, not a little bit, very personal and talk about what I call all your pink parts. So basically, what I mean by that, if you were to look at your body, and and yes, I realize that this varies from ethnicity to ethnicity because not everyone is pink, but your body has multiple colors, and you have your skin, and it has lots of pigment in it, but then you have your lips and your nipples and your genitals, and those areas of your body all align. And I tease, when I used to teach couples classes, I would tease the husbands all the time. And I would say, if you just go from pink to pink to pink, start at the top and work your way down, you'll get a lot farther than if you try to go the other direction. So I want to talk about what the colors actually show and signify for you and for others in your relationships. Because, and we're going to, your lips, so, for those of you that usually listen to this and there's kids in the room, know that this is going to be more PG-13. Um, so, I guess keep it appropriate. But that is something that I absolutely love bodies, and I love teaching women just basic physiology and anatomy. When you are into a physical state of arousal, your lips become redder. Your nipples become redder and engorged. Your lips will actually swell as well. And so do all of those parts of your body. They are connected. This is why when your lips are cold and blue, your nipples get hard and shrink as well, because uh, it's what's happening internally. So we're going to do a little bit of anatomy and physiology here. And the first part of this is that your lip, I'm going to use your lips as an example, but no, I'm talking about your nipples and your genitals as well. So your lips have one less layer of skin. And the reason they appear red is because you're actually seeing the movement of blood under the surface. So this is why when you're cold or you lack oxygen, lips will appear to be blue or purple because they aren't full of life. And I'm using specific words so that you can see how this relates both physiologically as well as emotionally and spiritually. When we are cold and we are numb and we have shut ourselves off, lips lose color. They also lose sensation, and so do all of the other parts of our body. So if you are someone who, you just naturally have very red, rosy lips, think of little kids. Their lips are always red and they're just vibrant and they're bright. And part of that, from a physiological perspective, is because they're always moving. Because kids are always moving and they have a lot of oxygen flow through their blood. And so their blood is uh, very awake and very alive and full of messages, full of stimulation, full of sensation. And adults tend to lose coloration in their lips, and it's almost like you can't tell the difference between your lips to your skin tone because you're very numb and you're very shut off to life, and things in your life aren't bright and lively and full of passion and fun. And so that will actually change the color of all of your pink parts. They'll get more browny, um, regardless of your race or ethnicity. They'll look more dull. The skin will it actually just, the texture will change. It's not soft and supple anymore. It's almost harsh and dry. And that is because you and your relationship to other people, your relationship and connection to your world is harsh and numb and dry. So your lips and your nipples and your genitals will all turn that as well. So I get some of the questions I get asked a lot are, especially when I mention dryness, People are, well, what about like vaginal irritation? What about um, itching and irritation and all of those kinds of things? Like, does that mean something? Yes. And if you have had yeast infection after yeast infection, and um, you're always irritated, you're always dry, your dream is to take a round brush and just shove it up there so you can scratch because you're so irritated with the world. That is not physiological. That is how irritated you are with so many aspects of your femininity, your ability to be sensual, your ability to be passionate, your ability to be aroused. Dryness is because you have shut yourself off from arousal. So I have to how do I want to say that? I'm going to give you another definition of arousal because people automatically, when I talk about this, they automatically go to sex. Whenever I talk about pleasure or passion or desire or arousal, they think it's all sexual, and it's not. Desire actually means the Father. Desire is something that occurs in your heart, not in your head. Um, Passion is something that lights you up and makes you feel alive, and that's also what arousal is. So everybody who, whether you are on the replay for this, which if you're watching the replay, type in replay. If you're here live, say hashtag live, just so I know who's here. But that is something that if you were to just take a really deep breath, okay, now this time I want you to take a really deep breath, but I want you to intentionally smell. What did you notice that the first time you took a deep breath, you didn't notice before? From your first breath to your second breath, you became awake and alive and aroused. Arousal means an awakening of your sensation, of your senses. That's why the word sensual, it actually has a root in senses, meaning that when you feel awake and alive and sensual and aroused, you are awake and alive and aroused to everything that's going on around you. It's not just sexual. So this is why you can smell a piece of chocolate and your mouth starts to water. This is why you can see a beautiful painting and it will bring you to tears because it has aroused or awakened you. And there's a physiological response that goes with that. Your lips get redder, your nipples get tighter, and you start to produce lubricant. That doesn't mean you're ready to have sex. That means you are awakening your senses. Let that sink in for just a minute, ladies. Because so many people, I do a retreat. It is called Embracing Your Divine Sexy Self. The entire 4 days is all about getting into pleasure, getting into arousal in all different ways. And I can't even tell you how many women have said, well, I'm really dry. It's really hard for me when I'm, in the mood. And I tell them, if you want better interactions inside the bedroom, you need to practice arousal outside the bedroom. Are you eating your food so fast that you haven't smelled it or tasted it? Are you walking from your car to your house so quickly that you don't notice the beauty of nature around you? Next time you go outside, are you out there long enough to feel the warmth of the sun or the cool of the breeze? Not in a shocking way, not in a, oh, that's painful way, in a, I feel that. I feel my body changing because of the temperature change. It is waking me up. Because when a woman is awake, when a woman is alive, when a woman allows herself to be aroused, she becomes awake to all of her spiritual gifts, intuition, all of those things that connect us to other people, that connect us to the heavens, that connect us to the earth. But when you can shut a woman down so that she does not want to be aroused, meaning you shame her sexually, you shut her off spiritually. And when you wake a woman up, when you wake up her body, you wake her up spiritually. And so for so many women, when they're on these spiritual journeys, the biggest thing they're missing is the sexual part of it, the sensual part of it. I love that, being present with physical senses all the time. It's beautiful. When people are struggling with eating, I just tell them, well, get aroused first. Smell it. What's the texture of the food in your mouth? Have you actually felt it with your fingers? Did you know that there are sensors in your fingertips? This is why a lot of people, a lot of cultures that eat with their hands tend to weigh less. They tend to have healthier bodies, because you have sensors in the tips of your fingers that when it touches food, it activates salivatory glands and it starts to become aware of the enzymes that are needed. Okay, well, what do we eat in our culture here in America with our fingers? Fast food, greasy food, salty food, all the food that your body's like, we don't want any of that. So you actually will tend to eat faster, because instead of arousing your body, it shuts it down. Your body is trying to get you to not eat it, instead of when you pick up a strawberry and your fingers feel the sensation of the seeds and the temperature, and then you smell it and you already start to salivate, and you can't wait for that perfect sweetness and tartness that when it hits the back of your mouth, it just, and you suck on it just for a little bit to get that juice, and then you chew, and then you swallow, and your stomach's already ready for it because you ate slow enough, it had time. And all of a sudden, satiation happens faster, and you're not overeating, and you're not over drinking, and you're not numbing anymore because you're awake. But the opposite of this is true as well. Some of you have and have had spiritual gifts since you were a young child, and no one knew what to tell you to do with them. So you shut them down. You weren't trying to shut yourself off from other people. You were trying to shut yourself off from the fear of seeing the unseen, from everyone's emotions around you, because you were an empath and you soaked that up. So you learned, if I shut myself down, then I don't have to be awake, and I don't have to pay attention to anything that's happening around you. And your lips faded in color, and your nipples faded in sensation, and it's really hard for you to find any pleasure during sexual activity. Says, yes, I love food I can eat with my hands. Yes, because you actually engage more senses. Your digestive system starts to interact faster when we eat with our hands. And so it is because it engages all your senses. See it, hear it, feel it, taste it, touch it. Oh, that is what's not happening when people have dry lips. When they think about when you're nursing, okay? So for those of you who've nursed a baby and someone at the hospital said, if it hurts, you're doing it wrong, there is nothing more painful than nursing for your first 2 weeks. Because, anyways, so that's a side squirrel, and I'll tell you that story later. But you get to the point where you're so sleep deprived, you literally have another being sucking the life from you, and you lose sensation everywhere. And your face loses color, and your lips lose color, and your nipples, the only sensation they feel is hurt, and the milk let down. You're like, yeah, it's time to eat. Sex can be okay. You're like, yeah, all right, I'm willing. But it's not necessarily amazing. But then let's back up to pregnancy, when your body is full of extra blood, when your body is literally creating life, and all of your senses are peaked. Some of you, if you're like me, your senses are a little too, and you're like, please stop talking to me, I can smell your breath. Okay? But for me, I love sex when I'm pregnant because there's all that extra blood flowing and all of my senses are so alive and vibrant and passionate and awake because I am in creation mode. So I know this was about relationships, and I want you to actually think for a minute. How is your relationship with creation? How is your relationship with making something, whether it is food, a friend, a person, art, dance, music? Are you actually connecting to your relationship with your ability to be a creator? Because, ladies, you are a being of creation. We talk about this intensely in my Year of You journey. And that is something that the women in Year of You right now, that's actually the module that some of them are on, is connection and creation. And they are having huge shifts in their relationships with their money, with their partners, with their kids, with all of these things in their relationships that are shifting exponentially. Not because all of a sudden they've done declarations for months and months and months and now they have a new mindset. No, it's because they've reconnected with their ability to be a creator. When your relationship with creation has ceased, it affects your lips, it affects your nipples, and it affects your ability to actually become aroused to life, awake to all your senses. You lose color, you lose sensation, you start to pick, you start to chew, and a woman's body is meant to be stimulated. It's meant to be alive. It's meant to be awake. We actually have more sensors in our skin than men. It's one of the reasons why women, okay, so I'm going to back up a little bit. Women's skin is naturally softer than men's because we have a thin layer of fat underneath our skin. And that's why we have softer skin. It's also why you don't see our veins as much. It's why unless you get really, really into bodybuilding, but it's because our skin is so sensitive to not to taste, to touch, and because we are meant to be awake to feel those temperature changes. Our skin is awake so that we can sense when someone walks in the room. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they helpful? Are they hurtful? So your lips, have you ever had a tingling sensation in your lips? I want you to start, I invite you because I realize that this call for some women is really like, because I'm inviting you to tap into your creative energy. But some of you only think of that as sex. And you may have a partner and you may not. And you may have trauma and you may not. And you may have different scripts about what is and isn't okay when it comes to sexuality and sensuality. But I invite you to wake back up those senses. And if you want it to be really good in the bedroom, then start practicing it outside of the bedroom. Where I live, I have a tree right outside and it's beautiful. My kids call it their popcorn tree. It's full of white blossoms right now. It's in the 70s. All of our trees are blooming. We're starting to have dandelions again. I love to smell them. I just stand by the tree and smell. And yes, my body becomes physically aroused because I am awake to what's around me. That doesn't mean I'm going to go have sex with my husband. It means I'm allowing myself to be alive and awake. Your lips, all the pink parts, tell you, are you alive and awake or are you numb and lacking sensation? What are you going to do this week differently? How are you going to tap back into that creation energy? What are you going to do to remember that you are a being of creation? That if you want your relationships, your relationship with your body, your relationship with money, your relationship with other people, your relationship with bringing new resources to you, you can't do that if you don't tap into your creative energy. So, what are you going to make? Bread? Are you going to make someone laugh? That is that is something that is creation. What are you going to take resources of and put together and say, now I have something new. Do you want it? Because I want to share with you. Creation energy is a beautiful way to heal a woman. It is the fastest way to heal a woman. And it is also the fastest way to shut her down and shut her up. So I invite you, look at the color of your lips. Are you full of vitality and passion? Are you allowing yourself to be aroused and awake? Or are you numb and shut down? Wherever you are, know that it can be better. Know that wherever you are, you can stop numbing and you can wake up. Also know that as you wake up, so do your spiritual gifts. Because you're not just waking up your body, you're waking up your mind and your soul. And that is what I want for women. That is why I do these calls. That is why I do these classes. So I love you. Thank you so much for jumping on this beautiful Monday. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. And I hope that you got something from this message. In fact, I would love to hear, what was your aha? What was the thing that made you go, I need to remember that. I need to pass that on. Or who did you think of that needs to hear this? Tag someone, invite them to the group, get them in here so that they can hear this too. Because ladies, right now, relationships are falling apart. That's why I'm doing these videos specifically around relationships. So let me know if they're helping. Let me know if there is a specific relationship you're struggling with so that I can talk about that. And I love you. Have a fantastic day.